Laoise Today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.
With thanks to mulliganspharmacy.com. Life's a beach with Mulligan's Pharmacies. Open late on the Dunmore Road and in Tramore.
Good morning and welcome to the programme. A lot of reaction to the stories we've been covering this week. Many people saying the new hostel in Dungarvan looks amazing, wishing everyone the best of luck. Reservations at dungarvanhostel.com or give the hostel a phone call there. And the best of luck to everybody tonight and tomorrow as they open up. As part of our focus on Men's Health Week, I went and got an examination at Dr. Plant's office, Dr. Jeff Plant's office at the Keogh practice in Ferrybank. Here's a taster. Where is the prostate? Why do you need to stick a finger up my bum?
Okay, the prostate is located sitting under the bladder. To feel it, to examine it, it's located just in front of the back passage, so at roughly a finger's length. So hence, that's why we need to do it. I know it's a little uncomfortable, but it's the best way of examining it. And abnormalities can be picked up through it quite well.
And 3,500 men get prostate cancer every year. We're going to be talking to a man who has survived prostate cancer. We're also going to have an in-depth interview with Bishop Alphonsus Cullinan on the way forward for the Catholic Church. First, the spinning has started. As I've said many times in this programme, it's all down to politics. Before we go into Shane Ross and Mary Butler's clips, a quick note in from Amanda. Just to tell the listeners, there's a man claiming to be from the tax office ringing on an 051 number. He's rung a number of people already this morning looking for their details. I've had 2 phone calls already from him already. So just to warn the listeners, don't give out your details regarding anybody on the phone, particularly if somebody is calling alleging from the tax office. Now, Shane Ross, he would have been fully aware that by supporting a grant allocation of $5 million for Waterford Airport, there was going to be some spin against him. The Irish Independent have gone for it full throttle this morning. Front page and 2 pages inside, giving out about money going to an airport with no flights. There are no commercial flights there at present, that is true. But there are flights, there's a lot of private flights. And the reason there's no commercial flights there at present, as a number of texters have said already, is because the runway is too short. And the reason the money is going in there is to lengthen and widen the runway. And there won't be any commercial flights unless the government and the private sector gets involved. Now, Shane Ross has already been on News Talk this morning talking about the funding, which represent a 40% investment, with the remaining funding being provided by private investors and local authorities.
We looked at this very, very closely, and I decided at the end that there are risks involved in this, but the fact of the matter is that the government's only putting in 40%, and private investors and local authorities are putting in, absolutely convinced, putting their money on the line. And if I was to refuse that, I'd obviously be really, really signing the death knell of Waterford Airport. It's very important for regional policy. Waterford Airport is reopened, but we think it's got a really good chance of success.
Now, Mary Butler has also been on the airwaves defending the idea because, from what I understand, Fianna Fáil and Sinn Féin were spoken to before this grant allocation was going to be put through Cabinet, because they wanted everybody on side, because there would have been a potential that people would start giving out about it. This is what Mary Butler has had to say this morning.
However, support is conditional from the government, subject to a number of conditions, including a demonstration that the project can be delivered for $12 million and will not go over budget. Minister, yesterday we heard in detail at the Oireachtas Committee for Health that the cost overrun at the National Children's Hospital was due to inflation costs. So why, for example, is cost inflation okay at the Children's Hospital, but for the Waterford Airport, which applied for the funding 12 months ago, the terms and conditions are different? In every project there is a possibility of a cost overrun. This seems to me a very strange situation.
And that was Mary Butler speaking in the Dáil last night. We have another clip of her coming up shortly and later on in the programme regarding what she said this morning, because this issue hasn't gone away. The Independent are making a big play about this morning. Now, for the first time ever, Conor McCarthy has been speaking about putting his hard-earned money into the airport. You'll hear from this, Conor McCarthy. He's one of the investors behind the small number of people, 3 or 4 investors that are going to put up to €5 million into the airport. He's living in Dublin. I spoke to him a short while ago.
Yeah, good morning, Damien.
Conor, just in case any of our listeners don't know who you are, obviously a very successful businessman and in-depth knowledge of the aviation industry. What are you bringing to the table in this scenario?
I guess what I bring along with the other investors is a passion for the southeast and a passion to see what's a very potentially viable piece of infrastructure, which is the current airport, develop to its proper potential, and therefore enables it to bring tourists to the region directly into the region of Waterford, Kilkenny, and also Carlow and Wexford, and also to enable people who live in the area to have a much easier access, particularly to the UK.
Tell me about your experience, Conor, please.
Well, I guess I'm a lifelong aviator, I suppose you could call me. I started in aviation at 16. I've been in the business now for over 41 years, and I've worked across the world and still do with a range of airlines. I spent a long time at Aer Lingus and finished up there as chief executive of Aer Lingus Commuter, and then moved to Ryanair for a number of years as their chief operations officer. And for the last 20 years now, I've been kind of plying my wares across the world, helping people start airlines. So I was involved. I'm a founder of AirAsia in Southeast Asia and founder of AirAsia X, founder of Jetstar in Australia, and also an airline in Mexico known as Viva Aerobus. So I'm still involved with most of those airlines as well today.
And you live in Dublin, but you have a summer house in Dunmore, is that it?
Yes, we've Dunmore is our second home, really, and we love the place. And over the last 25 years, I guess we've got to know Waterford and the whole region much better. And I can see, as somebody who visits the region, how much it has to offer and how much potential there is there. And it's been a source of frustration for me to see the airport, which has badly needed a jet-capable runway for a long time, being left without it. So it's great news this week that we've got the government on side, and we can press ahead with a relatively ambitious plan to develop that runway and to develop the necessary associated works. And you sound like that runway.
You sound like the type of man, Conor, that wouldn't be putting money into a white elephant or a sort of a dreamy boat type of project. I'd say you're a fairly practical man, and that any investment that you'd make in this particular project would be done so in the full knowledge that it is a very viable product.
Well, I suppose I do remember my first week's wages were £18 when I was an apprentice in Aer Lingus. So I certainly know the value of a few quid, but I've made some mistakes and you make some judgments. But I think this is a risk worth taking. Yes, I do believe there is a significant opportunity for the region in this, and I wouldn't be backing it if I didn't think there was going to be a success in the long run.
And is it impolite to ask how much money yourself and the likes of Noel Frisbee or others will be putting in?
No, not impolite at all. I won't be telling you, but there you go. We're going to between ourselves and the private investors, we're going to put in $5 million. The councils who have been extremely supportive. This project has been live really for over 18 months. We've been trying to put a business plan together. We've been trying to get government support for a long time on this, and so it's been a challenge to get the support necessary and to get people on the belief boat. And we're all there.
Yeah, and what will you get back for this? Do you get a stake in the airport? Is there a percentage? Do you become part owners, or what happens?
Yes, we'll take an equity stake in the airport. I mean, as things stand, I think the minister himself even said it, the airport was, unviable as it stood, and its future. Actually, I would have thought its future was almost doomed if it didn't have this additional investment. At least now, with the investment, the airport can attract efficient, modern jets such as the Airbus 320 and the Boeing 737, and that means that the airline that operates in and out of Waterford from London, for example, can offer competitive fares. It means that the people living in the region can now take a very nice, predictable, short drive to their local airport and take a flight at a very attractive fares compared to the alternatives in Dublin, for example, where the road system is congested and where the airport is congested and where the fares have been steadily rising over the last 10 years.
What do you think of front page of the Irish Independent this morning, where the Minister, John Halligan, and Shane Ross are in for criticism, for a sort of a kickback against this idea of giving €5 million in a grant to an airport with no flights? There seems to be some political manoeuvres, whether it's a Dublin-centred thing, whether it's a political attack on Shane Ross and John Halligan, but there's obviously some people stirring it up, saying that this money shouldn't be given to Waterford.
You see, I'm pretty much a private sector person myself, and I certainly don't subscribe to the idea that people should get handouts. And so in that regard, I find that a bit surprising. Here we have private sector stepping up, saying we'll fund pretty much 50% of this project if you guys fund the other 50%. On top of that, the airport, which is currently being subvented each year in order that it can provide the search and rescue service that's essential to the southeast, is going to continue in some form. So why not spend a little bit of tar that's going to make this ship float, rather than not spend a heap worth of tar, as they say? I think you'll always find some detractors, but this is a risk. It's not guaranteed by any means. We don't have, for example, an airline yet signed up to it, but we have a plan and a strategy to attract some airlines that could come in. We're going to have discounts available for the first movers on any one route. So those airlines will get marketing support, which is essentially will enable them to develop the route themselves, and it'll give them some time to do that without having too much competition on the route that could kill all players. And in that regard, I think it's very positive. As far as the economics for the taxpayer are concerned, there's a study that was done a number of years ago, and the study identified that with one daily flight to London, that the region and the government, the Exchequer, would benefit to the tune of over €33 million a year. So when you think about a $5 million investment being paid back in less than 3 months of service, that's a pretty good investment for the taxpayer, I would have thought, as opposed to the same people who might be neighbours of mine here in Dublin. I don't know, but they haven't said a word about the fact that the BAA are about to spend €2 billion, not 2 million now, €2 billion developing Dublin Airport's third runway and associated facilities.
What's the time frame? Obviously, we have planning permission is going to be put in for the second end of the runway, and are we looking? What would you expect the time frame to be, Conor?
Our objective is to try and have this runway ready for operations next summer. I mean, there's no way that you'd be hoping an airline would start it in the winter, which is a traditional loss-making period for airlines. So we would have an objective and an ambition to have that runway available for operations next summer 2020. That depends on a lot of things, of course. It depends on the planning permission. It depends on the construction program moving ahead within it. And it also is clearly important that we manage to achieve that within the budget of $12 million.
And it's definitely going to happen, is it?
You heard it. That's going to happen.
Conor McCarthy, thank you very much for joining us. That was Conor McCarthy, aviation expert and a man who is one of the people that's going to put in money into the airport. People texting in, well done, Mary Butler, out early this morning, telling it as it is, Dublin-centric media on the attack. Great news for Waterford, another texter. Well done, Mary Butler, for continuing raising this. Unbelievable, fantastic news for Waterford. Dublin didn't want to give us the money, but Halligan has obviously fought hard to get this over the line. Why are people still trying to knock him? Great to see all the Oireachtas members pulling together, says another person. Damien, the Irish Examiner editorial in yesterday's paper, made very good reading. From a regional point of view, today's Independent is typical of a Dublin-based newspaper not knowing the struggle that doesn't know exactly what the needs of the South East are. Nuala's texted, why should taxpayers be involved in a private enterprise that is Waterford Airport? We need 24/7 cardiac care. Owen Davin has said, congrats to all the Waterford blood donors today on World Blood Donor Day. And a special note here, a personal note. Please say congratulations to Tasman O'Shea, who just got her results from IT Carlow, a 1-1 first class honours from her mum and dad, brother and sister. Well done, Tasman. Back with more of your texts and comments. 083 3333 975. That's 083 3333 975. Texter has just texted in. Hi, Damien, just wondering, can the public get involved in the airport, getting shares or putting money in? I'm not sure about that. I don't think so at present. I'm not sure about that. Regarding prostate cancer, Damien, men are wimps when it comes to examining the prostate. Easy known, they've never had babies, where women's bodies are pocked and prodded at every angle, and that is in from Mary. Call Audrey on 051 846 123. Back with a very, very important topic.
Déise Today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.
Thanks to Mulligan's. Blue Club rewards from mulliganspharmacy.com. Spend a little to earn a lot.
Every time I think I'm falling, I know you're falling too. There's no doubt you're rolling.
Déise Today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.
With thanks to Click and Collect at mulliganspharmacy.com. Order online, collect in store.
Now, welcome back to the programme. We will continue with more of your texts and comments in a little while. Martin calls to say if we weren't as biased here in Waterford, we'd read the Independent story today and think it's another classic case of Shane Ross playing parish pump politics to keep his Independent Alliance colleague John Halligan happy. So we have to look at it in different ways. Keep your texts and comments coming in, please. Now I'm joined by Bishop Alphonsus Cullinan. Good morning, Bishop.
Good morning, Damien, and to all your listeners too.
Thanks very much for coming into us this morning.
Thank you.
We're going to talk in a minute about Go Make Disciples, the diocesan pastoral plan for 2019 to 2024. That's the Diocese of Waterford and Lismore. And we'll go through the different aspects of that. The Feast of the Pentecost, you launched it last Sunday on the 9th of June. And the four main tenets of it are becoming an evangelising church, communities of faith, quality of liturgical celebrations, and also remodelling leadership.
Yes.
Firstly, a little bit, I know people have been on before. We'll start a little bit about yourself first. Nice little few questions here. A few people texted in.
Yes.
If you were having a dream dinner party, who would you invite to it?
Oh.
Give me a few people.
I think I'd love to have a long chat with Pope Francis.
Okay.
That might sound corny, but I really would. He's a fascinating person to me, I must say.
Okay, that's one.
Yeah. Who else would I invite? Gosh. This might sound corny as well, but I'd like to invite I know a homeless guy around the town who's a fascinating character. I'd like to invite him as well. Like to invite I can think of some wonderful mothers who are real inspiring people to me.
Okay.
I mean,
Are you a dog or a cat person?
Oh, a dog.
A dog
yes.
person. How old are you?
I turned 60 last month.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Did you have a party?
I did indeed, with 3 brothers and 3 sisters down in West Clare. Yes.
When did you get your vocation?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it was probably latent there, Damien, for many years, but it wasn't until I was in Spain, actually, far away from home and all the supports that I had here, and I started to think a bit more about my life and where I was going, and it was there that I discovered, actually, I was teaching English in a city called Valladolid or Valladolid, and it was there that I discovered that the Lord was calling me to the priesthood.
Where did you come in your family?
Number 8 out of 10.
How did that feel?
Sure, that was great. We had I must say, we were a happy family, and it wasn't easy. I mean, plenty ups and downs, but no, it was good. It was good, thank God.
What's your dream job?
I think, oh my gosh, I'm in it, but it's not easy. But it's it's good. It's good. I'm excited. I'm excited about this plan, and I'm excited about the people who've pushed it along
together. Yes. Have you ever had a boyfriend, a girlfriend?
A girlfriend, yes, indeed.
Number of years ago?
Many years ago.
Many years ago.
Yes. Yes.
What's your favourite colour?
Oh gosh, what's my favourite colour? I suppose I would have to say red. I don't know.
And beside God, I suppose, and the saints, who would you see as your a role model in life, if there was a role model in your life?
A role model in my life? I would have to say a certain priest that I knew years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Now, in terms of this plan
Yeah.
and the problems that the Catholic Church have been associated with in the past, we
Yes.
don't have to talk about those at the minute, we'll go into those
Yeah.
in a little while.
Uh-huh.
The general thing about inability for the Church to find its place and to grow within the current society. So, there is a thing called the metaphysics of naturalism, the idea that nothing is real except which can be studied by science. Now, the Catholic Church would reject this, and the belief in God is the manifestation of a deeper worldview. Can we have religion without God? And to me, this goes to the heart of this plan, because a lot of people would see themselves as spiritual. They would see themselves as having some sort of a faith or a belief in
Yes.
a higher order or a meaning.
Yes.
And they wouldn't necessarily see themselves as believing in God. Is it possible to have religion without God?
It is possible to make up one's own religion. That is true. And because if one didn't have faith, well, you wouldn't get out of bed in the morning, you know. I mean, if you don't have something to get up for, so I think that people create meaning, but from the point of view of what Jesus is offering us, he is saying to us, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And that which you are searching for in all its fullness is actually him, is Jesus.
But humans have always looked to the stars in awe.
Yes.
They've always been inspired.
Sure.
They've always felt that life has had a purpose.
Sure.
That there may be a universal order. So a belief in a God is only one possible manifestation or consequence of this deeper worldview. Now, you say that God underwrites this value in the world.
That God is the ultimate ground. Yes,
But
indeed.
this, I would argue, presupposes an independent reality to that value, and non-believers can also share that value. So the idea of an atheist and a theist, or somebody who believes in God, they're not that far apart.
Well, you know, it's a question. We're all searching. We're all searching. Searching for what? And God breaks into our world. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to invite us and to answer that call that we have, that it's really him that we are seeking for. You know, I mean, I think it was G.K. Chesterton that said that the man who knocks at the brothel door is really looking for God. What? Because he's looking for love, he's looking for affection, which he cannot find, and in his desperation, he seeks it in this place.
And Albert Einstein, even though he was an atheist, he was a deeply religious man, he said, to quote him, to know that what is impenetrable to us really exists, manifesting itself as the highest wisdom and the most radiant beauty, which our dull facilities can comprehend only in their most primitive forms. This knowledge, this feeling, is at the centre of true religiousness. In this sense, and in this sense only, I belong to the ranks of a devoutly religious man. And Shelley also wrote the awful shadow of some unseen power floating unseen among us. So for philosophers, theologians all down through the ages have seen this religiousness in the human soul.
Absolutely.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that there's a connection with a God. And this maybe goes to the heart of the problem with secularization of society and this plan.
Yes. And of course, well, you see, there is a secularization, of course, and there is an individualism. But that is a closing in on self. And that is a very narrow world. And that is a very, I think, disappointing world. But what Jesus is saying, again, you know, that beauty and that truth and that meaning that you are looking for is in me, is in Jesus, is in him. He's inviting us to that the search for beauty and the search for truth is a manifestation of our human desire for God. You know, there's a beautiful image from C.S. Lewis. You know, the fish in the fishbowl, it never complains about its environment. It's in water. Whereas we live in the environment of time, And yet we're always complaining about time, how time flies. Could it be 10 years since we were here, last, or here we are at another Christmas dinner, and could it be a year? Why are we complaining about time if this world is all that we're made for? So he's extrapolating from that us human beings essentially are made for something eternal.
And speaking about that, belief in God, many would argue, emerged as an expression of human helplessness in the face of the vastness of the universe. The eclipses, people in days gone by looking at the sun, looking at the eclipses of the sun, are seemingly minute place in the world. So in the past 5,000 years, pharaohs and priests developed, church rose, they proclaimed the natural order of things, and disciples were born out of that to tell the world that secularization is effectively contrary to God's will.
Well, you see, breaking through all that, Damien, we have the fact of the existence of Jesus Christ, who becomes human. And that is the key thing, that God became human, that God is incarnated, and that this Jesus is human and divine, and that this Jesus died and lived and died and rose from the dead for us. So this is the huge breakthrough of Christ into our world, that God became a human and therefore joined the world in all its ups and downs and bits and pieces and all its struggles. In him, in his person, joined us to God.
But that theoretical analysis came even before Jesus. For example, Socrates, the great Greek philosopher, was arguing, he spoke in the dialogues, he asked, is an action good simply because the gods enjoin it? If you answer yes, you accept that we have to work this out. We can't work this out for ourselves. So, effectively, blind obedience is the only basis of morality. Now, that hasn't got us very far, has it?
No, absolutely not. No, that blind obedience, I mean, we have the gift of reason, and to use our reason to discover, along with the revelation which the Lord gives us, for example, in the Ten Commandments, that this supports our human reason, which of course can be flawed, but supports our human reason to discover a true way to live.
And one of those things that is central to this plan that you're proposing is to try to increase vocations, increase people's faith in God and in Jesus, as you say. So we're going to ask I'm going to ask you straight after this ad break now. Is the steady and unstoppable incorporation of Ireland into global US-dominated economics and the consequent undermining of ideas that flourished in the early stages of Ireland's development, is that unstoppable? And effectively, is the Catholic Church now looking at becoming a tribal religion within Ireland? Hold that thought.
Okay.
Ireland is becoming increasingly secular. Why should there be a cross over the building when you're going into a hospital to meet a doctor who could be a Muslim?
If we take out God, there is no right or wrong. There is no up or down.
Religion is like some sort of a sop. That powerful narrative in people's lives, I think, has been very destructive for human beings.
I just really, really want to believe in something. So I suppose I'm probably one of those impressionable people open to being swayed. But I'm very cynical.
Can our ancient history and the world of science give us any answers?
Decline in religion in Ireland is a backlash against what was a theocratic state.
It's a whole new conversation. Déise Today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.
With thanks to Mulligan's Pharmacy. Over 60 years together. Thanks to you.
Hey, now, what you gonna do about me?
Déise Today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.
With thanks to mulliganspharmacy.com. Life's a beach with Mulligan's Pharmacies. Open late on the Dunmore Road and Intramore.
Welcome back to the programme. You're listening to Damien Tiernan, and we are talking to Bishop Alphonsus Cullinan, Bishop of Waterford and Lismore. We're talking about a new plan that the church in Waterford, the diocese, is putting forward for the next 5 years to try and increase vocations. Keep your texts and comments coming in, 083 3333 975. We had a lovely text in there from a man who's listening in Oman. Great to listen to Conor McCarthy earlier. With a great business head, we badly need an airport. I know a lot of people that would use it on a constant basis. I fly in and out of Dublin over 20 times a year, but I'd use Waterford if we got it. It would be a great old thing to get it going, wouldn't it?
So would I.
Bishop, absolutely.
It would be great to just hop out your own airport.
Now, as I said earlier, you're in a very difficult place. The church is in a difficult place, and all the issues that have come up in the last 20 years especially,
yes.
But that inexorable drive towards globalisation and towards the constant undermining of ideas that flourished in the early stages of Ireland's development, that's now been not only eroded away, it's been wiped away. So is there a possibility that the Catholic Church would be having to find itself in the place of being a tribal religion in Ireland?
Well, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that the church is going to be smaller, but I think it's going to be stronger. When you're talking about the inexorable change of ideas there and secularization, we've just had elections 2 weeks ago or whatever it was, and 50% of the people didn't turn out. That's despite the fact that every house in the country was visited umpteen times by politicians, and it was in people's consciousness for
you
weeks.
Didn't engage them, and yes, there was a referendum only a couple of years ago regarding marriage and homosexuality, and then there's other issues that would have got a lot more people exercised.
Yes, but still, I suppose a lot of people didn't turn out as well. I mean, I know of a school somewhere in Ireland where the Parents' Council organised a talk for the parents on cyberbullying and internet safety, and out of possible hundreds of people who should have attended, 15 turned up. It's hard to engage people because people are becoming more and more individualistic, and that is not a good thing for human beings, because we are social beings, and this is one of the things that the church in her mission is trying to do, to bring people together.
And if we're social beings, we may be social beings watching Sky television. So religion has always held a promise of a reward for the faithful in the next world, inverted commas. This was great, I would argue, for the peasants many, many centuries ago, where they were toiling. Now, death in some way has become nothing more than a long sleep, because it seems acceptable for many. Everlasting life for earthly misery is an outdated notion when people are watching football matches on Sky TV.
Well, I think it's a caricature, really, to describe to Christianity as an escape route. Maybe that's true for other religions, but Jesus has come to bring us life, and life to the full. And I have to say that the happiest people that I know are people who have discovered the secret that Jesus is with them in everything, even in the middle of difficult life, that God is there, that we can be happy right now, that it's not just something we wait for in eternity, that happiness begins here. It will never be perfect, but there are so many wonderful and beautiful graces and beauties of God happening every day, and if we can discover them, we have discovered something great, something which is not only for ourselves, but that we can communicate to others by our way of living, by our way of interacting with them, and of showing care and love.
I was reading the launch of the report, and you've presented the report this morning. As I said, 4 of the central tenets: becoming an evangelising church, creating communities of faith, quality of liturgical celebrations, remodelling leadership. You're also going to be appointing different positions. Will there be, in some respect, there's nothing new in this? Because going through and doing research for this, read quite a lot on this. This is the central tenets of the church down through the centuries. You're remodelling it in a modern way, and you have to do it. You have to have a plan going forward.
Very true.
If you don't have a plan, Bishop, you're going to flounder.
Absolutely. I mean, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, as the old business refrain goes, and it's right.
And so, those people that you're going to be appointing, this youth minister and stuff like that, like, for example, will they be paid?
They will, and that'll be a challenge. And there's a faith development officer, and that will be a challenge to pay them, but they have to be paid.
So these will be lay people that will be fully employed or part-time employed?
Fully employed.
Okay. So they'd have to get a fairly good wage.
They'll have to get a fairly good wage. Absolutely. That is true.
And where's that money going to come from? From the church coffers?
Well, this is part of the fund that we have, which is depleting, of course, now.
Yeah,
and
we
it's
had
a battle.
It's a battle because we had the story last Christmas or before Christmas about priests saying they weren't getting paid.
That's true, and I mean, Damien, there's no way around it. It's going to be a battle, but these are things which we just have to do. We have to employ more lay people. We have to, and this came from the listening process, and I want to thank all the people on the Diocesan Pastoral Council, especially Sister Antoinette Dilworth and Father Liam Power, who did Trojan work in all of this. But these are things that came from the people, that we need a youth development officer or a youth ministry officer, and we need a faith development officer in the diocese. And I'm looking forward to working with these people who in turn will work with teams across the diocese.
And then there's things that come up all the time. Like there can be a simple little thing that can affect people's attitude to the church. For example, over in Ferrybank at the minute, we have the men's shed.
Oh, yeah.
And they want to get into the old, pitch and putt place.
All right.
And I think they've asked the Bishop of Ossory to overturn plans that he won't let them in. Have you any comments on that?
I didn't actually know anything about that.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah.
No, that's fine. What about the comments yesterday, over the weekend by Father Ford, the Capuchin in the Friary, regarding comparing
in Kilkenny,
regarding criticising gay and lesbian men, and then he spoke about The Walking Dead and zombies.
Yeah, I know that the Bishop of Ossory, I just read a statement from him yesterday. He basically, he apologised for that. Well, and he asked the Capuchins to apologise, which they did unreservedly. But yeah, I'm not sure what the homily actually contained.
See, in a way, Bishop.
Yeah.
The bishop should be defending somebody like Father Ford, because effectively, if you're true to your beliefs, you're declaring. This was sacrosanct only a few years ago, this idea that homosexuals weren't welcome into the church. So these comments should be endorsed, even if you may regret the belligerent language.
I don't know exactly what he said, but let's be quite clear, that everybody is welcome in the church, and we are all sinners. So I am a sinner.
Are homosexuals sinners?
We are all sinners.
Like, what's the church's attitude to homosexuality these days? Is it a mortal sin or not?
It is. It is a fact that every single one of us, Damien, are before the Lord. We stand in constant need of healing and of help from the Lord to live fully the lives that Jesus wants us to live, including me, every single day. Every time I say the Mass, I say, Lord have mercy, Christ have mercy, Lord have mercy.
Can you answer that specific question, though? For example, is it like adultery, in the sense that, like in Matthew 25:41, yes, God will say on Judgment Day, "Depart from me, ye accursed, into everlasting life." There's no ambiguity there. In Genesis 19, sodomy, regarding anal sex, eternal hellfire. So has the church's views changed regarding homosexuality, or is still homosexuality something that needs to be cleansed?
Let's be quite clear. Judgment is up to God. It is not up to me.
What does the church say, though?
The church...
What do you say?
Well, the church says that the plan of God is marriage. God's plan for marriage is a plan for male and female. That male and female, He made them. And that each one of us, as St. Paul says, we all fall short of the grace of God. Therefore, we rely on the grace of God to live fully the lives that God asks us to live, that he invites us to live every day, that his grace is available for you, for me, for everyone, and that is the key thing, that is the most important thing.
But and again, this comes back to the essence of this plan, because you have to talk to people out there. So, for example, somebody brings up past comments about the church and what the church says. Like in 1990, Archbishop Desmond Connell in Dublin, he criticised homosexuals. Like, would it not be more convenient and generally conducive to intellectual dignity if campaigners for the rights of gay people were to say to bishops, are you accurately reflecting Christian attitude to homosexuality? And if you are, if Brother Ford is accurately reflecting Christian attitude to homosexuality, to say that attitude is wrong.
You see, I didn't hear Brother Ford's homily. I don't know what he said. Well, I just don't. So, I mean, again, you see, I certainly know gay people who struggle with this, but they're constantly trying to seek, Damien, what is the Lord's will in all this? That is the key thing. What is the Lord asking me to do? And therefore, if the Lord is asking me to do something, that is most important thing of all, that Jesus invites me into fullness of life with him. I think that's a beautiful thing, that he is asking us, he is offering us life to the full. And I mean, there is nothing more important than that.
One thing that I know we're running out of time because we've gone over time on this.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. You mentioned before to my predecessor, Raymond Keane, you were setting up a body regarding exorcisms. How's that going?
Yes, there is a group. There is a group of people, a very fine group of people, and we had Father Pat Collins, CM, and he was on the Late Late Show, as people may have remembered, and a very good interview on the Late Late Show. So,
and has there been any exorcism carried out?
No. But there are a lot of people who have asked us about this kind of area, and you'd be surprised actually the number of people who have sought help in this area. And there is a group work. It's a work in progress. It's a difficult area as well, Damien. But thanks be to God, there's movement there. Yes.
Just on the previous thing, Brother Ford, actually, Tom Ford suggests that those who believe in contraception and abortion are morally rotten. That's actually what he said.
Oh dear. Well, I mean, gosh, no, I wouldn't agree with that. No.
But again, is he not reflecting the Church's views?
No, he's not. No, because you could
if
never...
you go back to where the Church stands on this.
But you can never use language like that.
Yes, you may give out about the language. It may be belligerent, but the central tenet of what he's saying is effectively reflecting Church's views.
No.
So are you saying that abortion is not morally rotten?
But the Church can never say that people are morally rotten. Do you know what I mean? We could never say, Jesus never says to anybody, you are rotten, but he will say, as he says to Mary Magdalene, go and sin no more. And that's where the grace of God meets us.
Bishop Alphonsus Cullinan, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much. God bless.
Join the WLR conversation on Twitter using hashtag Déise Today.
With thanks to mulliganspharmacy.com.
Déise Today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.
With thanks to Click and Collect at mulliganspharmacy.com. Order online, collect in store.
Now, welcome back to the programme. And just to remind people what Brother Tom Ford said in Kilkenny over the week, as reported in the papers, he suggested that those who believe in contraception and abortion are morally rotten. The former University College Cork chaplain said, although he knows zombies are not real, he believes people can be physically alive but spiritually dead, morally rotten or at least infected. He said this was evident in people when the mask slips, including those who have sex before marriage, those who are pro-abortion and those who believe in contraception. He added, in the zombie genre, once you're bitten, you're infected and there's no hope. The only way to deal with monsters is to stab or shoot them in the brain. We had Colm O'Gorman on yesterday, and he is calling for that language to be investigated by the Gardaí to see whether there is incitement to hatred. People have been texting in to say, Damien, that was a very interesting talk with Bishop Cullinan. I thought Bishop Cullinan was great. Thank you. Tom has said, once it was a mortal sin to eat meat on a Friday. Now it's not. Damien, we need visionary leadership in the church today, and Bishop Cullinan has stepped up to the plate. There are challenges ahead, and the new pastoral plan gives us a shape for the future. That's from Finton. Damien, you're wasting your breath. On hurling, a great article by Derek McGrath in the Examiner today. It's the likes of his vision we need when we're developing children in our school in the county for hurling football for life. Damien, Bishop was being evasive, and some other text coming in about that. Now, we are going to deal with a lot of other matters coming on in the second half of the show. And the person has texted, Damien, you were being somewhat unfair to the Bishop regarding homosexuality. You are fully aware of the Catholic Church's stance on it. The Bishop seems to be a very nice man and is trying to be very, very diplomatic. Damien, can you ask the Bishop, why do the priests have to be uprooted and sent to different parishes? Keep your texts and comments coming in 083 33 975.
Déise Today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.
With thanks to Mulligan's. Did you know you can collect your Blue Club points online? See mulliganspharmacy.com.
You got that power over me.
Now, welcome back to the programme. I'm joined by Dick Tubbert in the studio. Good morning, Dick. How are you doing?
How are you doing? Fine, Damien.
Good. We'll talk to you now in a second. Firstly, a few of the comments coming in. Well done, Damien. Very good interview, whatever your point of view. Compelling listening. That's from Jason Murphy. Bishop Fonzie spoke humbly and well about his new endeavour. Society needs real hope and moment at this time, from another texter. Damien, why do I always feel the Bishop is always put on trial when being interviewed by WLR? It's a bit unfair to the man. Thanks from Eamon. Absolutely not. Nobody's been put on trial. Anybody I have in here in terms of putting forward plans and proposals, whether it be politicians, whether it be business people, whether it be members of the clergy, the same principle applies. You talk to people about specific questions, you look for specific answers. I was talking about the fundamentals of the church trying to build in a deeply secular society, and is that difficult and how difficult it is, and that goes to the heart of the launch of that report. Thank you, Bishop, for all the wonderful work you're doing, says another person. Eric says Bishop Cullinan is doing a great job. It's good to know Bishop Cullinan has such a plan for the next 5 years. Such a challenge for him, says another person. John in West Waterford says the article in the Examiner by Derek McGrath today is an insult to the past Waterford hurlers, the county board and many others. He thinks it's not a good thing at all. It's time that Derek let it go, he says. We can keep your texts and comments coming in. Now, a texter has texted me to say this lady's brother was due to have an operation for cancer this morning in the hospital, in University Hospital Waterford. Fasting since yesterday, has been waiting for quite a number of times for this operation. Presented himself at 7:30 this morning. Was informed at 9 p.m, in inverted commas, that parts of the hospital are in crisis. There's people in trolleys. It's disgraceful. This man is a pensioner. So his operation has been cancelled this morning. Looks like there aren't enough beds there. If you have any views or comments on that, please let us know. Now, we'll have more on the airport coming up shortly. Firstly, Men's Health Week, very, very important. A big taboo issue for a lot of men is prostate cancer. 3,500 men get diagnosed with prostate cancer every year. Dick, who is beside me here, is one of those that did get diagnosed and is thankfully here to tell the tale. We're going to talk to him now in a second. Yesterday, as part of this, I went over to Jeff Plant, who's our resident GP. He comes in here every 2-3 weeks, talks about medical matters, and I went to get a prostate test. I spoke to him en route. He asked me if I needed a chaperone in the surgery, another person in the surgery. I said it was fine, I didn't need to. We spoke about testicular cancer and tests for that. I said I didn't need any testing done for that. So here's my report with Dr. Jeff Plant on the prostate cancer test. Dr. Plant, hello, how are you?
Morning, Damien. How are you?
Good, thanks. Good.
Good.
Thanks for seeing me.
Thanks for seeing
me. Yeah. So it's Men's Health Week. So as I said to you on the phone, just come in to get a little bit of a test.
Good.
I've had my blood test done with my own GP. So
Good.
You'd normally say to a man, this would be one of the first things to get done. Would that be right?
That's correct. So if you want a prostate checked, you should get a blood test done, and depending on the result of that, usually both of them, you'll need an examination of prostate as well, Damien, which is unfortunately it's examination through the back passage to feel the prostate.
Okay, I've never had this done before. Now,
Okay.
my bloods have been consistently okay in terms
Good.
of that. So, but in terms of awareness and in terms of, I suppose, encouraging men to get this done, men of a certain age.
Yeah.
Testicular cancer is another thing that men have to watch out for. We heard earlier in the week about this. Obviously, young men especially, you think, should be testing.
That's right, Damien. So testicular cancer, it can affect any age, but particularly we see 30-year-olds at a slightly increased risk. Now, it's not very common, but it's something to be aware of, and these fellas don't really examine their testicles a lot. As you said, you were talking about it earlier in the week, we do strongly advise that men of all age, but particularly of that age, check their testicles once a month to feel what's normal and what's abnormal, okay? And the idea there is if you can pick something up abnormal, it'll be really beneficial to the patient. And you're looking for a smooth testicle when you're examining your own testicles. There's great information online, even YouTube, but I know it's a funny thing to YouTube, but it's a good one to look up and how to do it properly.
So in terms of the rectal examination for the prostate, what's going to happen now?
Okay, so just to explain to you, the rectal examination for prostate, a little bit of an uncomfortable procedure, but only takes a couple of seconds. It is very, very valuable to us. And the reason is this: the prostate blood test isn't extremely accurate. It can be high and you've got nothing wrong. And it can be low and you have got something wrong. So that added to the rectal test gives the doctor a lot more information. Now, both of them together still aren't 100%, as we're learning more and more. There's no medical tests that are 100%, but they give them much more accurate information and reassurance to both the patient and the doctor.
Where is the prostate? Why do you need to stick a finger up my bum?
Okay, the prostate is located sitting under the bladder. To feel it, to examine it, it's located just in front of the back passage, so at roughly a finger's length. So hence, that's why we need to do it. I know it's a little uncomfortable, but it's the best way of examining it. And abnormalities can be picked up through it quite well.
And what are you looking for? What are you looking to feel on it?
Yeah, so as we all get older, Damon, every man will get prostate problems. That is not the same as prostate cancer, okay? The other thing men get is called benign prostatic hypertrophy, overgrowth of the prostate. And that can give you lots of symptoms. But as a separate issue, we can often, when we're checking for that, we can also pick up prostate cancer. Now, most men don't, okay? So that's why we examine the prostate, to try and pick up early signs of prostate cancer.
Okay, I'll move over to
okay.
This is the...
Okay, Damien, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get you to lie on the couch, and I'm going to get you to lie on your left shoulder. And you need to drop the trousers and the underwear to roughly your knee level. Okay? I'll give you a hand in case you're in trouble.
And you're going to use the gloves here?
Yeah, I'm going to put on the gloves here, and you just need a little bit of gel on the gloves to make it a little bit more comfortable for you. Okay?
Okay, so I'm lying on my left shoulder here. What's the gel? Sort of a lubricant?
The lubricant gel, yeah. Your hand there, are you okay?
Yeah.
Nice and comfortable?
As comfortable as can be.
Okay, now Damien, tuck your knees up to your chest like the fetal position there a little bit. Okay. Now, I'm just going to look to start with. And Damien, a little bit of gel now. And when I say count to 3, there'll be a little bit of discomfort down below. Are you ready?
Hold on a second. Okay.
1, 2, 3. And I'm just checking the prostate now, and we're finished. Okay? You're right there, so you're comfortable, and you can sit back up nice and slowly, Damien. Okay? Are you okay after that?
Yeah, not too bad now.
Okay.
How did...
Okay, all felt good, Damien, okay? So when I was feeling there, I'm looking for a smooth surface on the prostate, and I'm looking for any abnormalities. So usually when you run run my finger along it, you feel a smooth-ish surface. As you get older, it bulks out a bit. I'm also making sure it's semi-soft, like the tip of your nose, kind of a cartilage in texture. But if it's stony, very, very hard, we're a little bit more concerned. So we're looking for lumps and bumps. kind of like a mollusk on the side of a boat, that kind of a situation. And we're looking for the consistency, hardness or not hardness. So all felt very good there.
It's amazing how quick a test it is, like literally just a few seconds.
It is, yeah. It doesn't take too long. It doesn't take too long at all. And for most men, I don't know, you can tell me how you felt after that. It is slightly uncomfortable. It's not a nice thing. There's a bit of a taboo about it, but it's very, very important to get done.
Yeah, no, it was fine. There was no pain there whatsoever. As you say, the gel that you use, it's just like a normal procedure, as you say, a medical procedure.
Yeah, it's not very complicated. It takes a couple of seconds and gives us a lot of information.
And it could save somebody's life.
It could, yeah. And the target age group here, just for your listeners, for the listeners as well, is there's a screening age between 50 and 70. 50 and 70.
And I'm 48, so I'm just hitting that.
You're just hitting the age, okay. There's a little bit of exceptions to the rules there, is that men, dark-skinned men, African descent men, should have it from 40 onwards. And they say every 2 years, okay. The other people, if there's a strong family history, for example, if your father or loads of your uncles died at a young age of prostate cancer, you would be looking to do it a little bit earlier, at a younger age. Now, there isn't a lot of value. We've talked about screening a lot recently with the cervical check scandal. The reason why it's 50 is because stuff can be picked up before that. The benefits aren't outweighed by the disadvantages, or vice versa, at a younger age.
Dr. Jeff Plant, thank you very much.
You're very welcome, Damien.
And I want to thank Dr. Jeff Plant for that. A couple of texts coming in. Damien, my father currently has prostate cancer. Is currently part of the clinical trial out of CUH. He's 2 years in it now and in the middle of chemo. He hasn't been the best the last few months, unfortunately. Fair play to you for covering this issue on air. Another texter is saying, well done, it's not an easy thing to do, never mind about doing it over the radio. Damien, whatever you're being paid, it's not enough. Will I be uploading a video of the prostate check like other videos? I don't think I'll do that, Dick, will I? I'll leave it off.
I don't think so.
I don't. Tell us, Dick, your own situation. Tell us what happened to you.
Yeah, well, I worked in Waterford Crystal, and the whole practice were providing the medical cover. So every year they insisted that we have a full medical, and once you went over 40, you went into they did a PSA on you then for the prostate.
And the PSA is a blood test.
Blood test, yeah. For the actual. So, as I said there, it's not accurate, but when I retired from Waterford Crystal, I kept with the QO practice, and they kept on with getting once a year, getting full medical all done. And it just started about 10, 11 years ago that it started to raise.
Okay, how old were you then?
I was 63.
Okay, 63. You started to notice it going up slightly.
Started to notice it go up slightly. So they were saying we keep an eye on it. So I went back the next year and it raised again. And 9 years ago when I went back, it had jumped to about 6.6. So they said, right, time to have a look at it. So they gave me the same examination you had there, and they said, yeah. So they said, sent a letter to Arkeen to have it done. This was in June. And I heard no more about it for a long time. But I went in then in October to get the flu jab. And the nurse I saw, Rose Coleman, was there. And she said to me, did you, any news of the prostate? Did you send anything about it? And I said, told her about the letter going in. And she said, you're waiting too long, she said. So she said to me, look, I'll give you a bit of advice. If you're my father, my husband, my brother, she said, I wouldn't be sending you to Arkeen. They're not specialists out there. They hadn't at the time. He said they're general surgeons, so I said you're better off going to Dublin. And she recommended a man. Will I give his name?
Yeah.
Mr. David Quinlan in the Blackrock Clinic. I had VHI, so she said go and see him. So I went to see him, made an appointment, and within 8 days I was actually in his office. And he examined me and he said to me, right, we'll have to take this further. So he sent me for biopsy, and within a week we had the results back, and he said, that's when I got the word.
That you had prostate cancer?
Yeah. I had joined with my wife and we sat down and he said, look, straight out, he said, you're prostate cancer and it's an aggressive form. Now he said, we can treat it.
And what was the treatment?
Well, he gave me options, but at the end of it, I went for surgery his idea was that he'd go in, he'd see what's there, and he'd operate. He guaranteed me that when I come out, I'd be back to zero with the prostate. So he did. He said, as he put it to me, we were talking about radium and this, but he said to me, with the operation, in his opinion, I had 2 bullets in the gun. If I had the radium, I couldn't have an operation. If I had the operation, I could have radium. So he said, it's up to you. Go back, think about it. This was over Christmas, he said. And you know yourself, going home at Christmas Day, what am I going to do? But I kind of made up my mind. I was going for the operation. We looked into the brekkie treatment, and I was too far gone for that. So it was the operation. So I rang him back and said, look, I go ahead. So the following February, that was 8 years ago, I actually had the operation. So...
Did you have to have treatment afterwards?
No. He's told me he got it all. It went outside the prostate, but he actually got it, all of it. So...
and you go back now for regular checks?
Yeah, I went back for 5 years on a regular basis. When I thought going back after the 5th year, I thought he said, you have the all clear, go, you know, but he didn't. He said, I want to see for the next 10 years.
That's okay.
So I said to myself, hang on, will I last that long? He said, I'm hoping to last that long myself, he said so. But yeah, we went back, and I keep going back now. I go back every October.
How do you feel? You look great.
I feel great. I'm 73. I'm still working part-time. I work with Arkeen Sales in London and Clayby. I'm a scout leader. I'm just back from the doors as a helper. You know, we walk the Greenway, Joe and myself. We do an hour and a half to 2 hours at a stints on it. So, you know, I feel healthy. I feel great. And
thanks to Lorraine, we just met her yesterday, for helping us get you on air today. It's fabulous.
Yeah, but instead, I know men. I know myself. I'm as bad. You know, we put things on the long finger. But I think it's important. I said to my 2 brothers then, when I got the word, go and get tested. And like Dr. Platt explained to you there, one brother had an enlarged prostate. No problem at all. The other one's grand. Right. So the 2 of them are fine. So, you know, get out.
The message is get out there and get tested.
Get out there, get tested. Get in. I mean, we even with getting the blood pressures and all that done, we don't do it.
Yeah, men should.
And we know ourselves from all the word from the hospital here that we have to become responsible for our own health. We can't depend on the health service.
Super advice. Yeah. Dick, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jamie.
It's a pleasure meeting you.
Great meeting you.
Talk to you soon. We're back with Butterflies.
WhatsApp Damien now on 083 3333 975. Déise today on WLR.
Thanks to Mulligan's. Make life easy. Pull into Ireland's only drive-through pharmacy at Mulligan's Arkeen.
I made no promises. I can't do golden rings, but I'll give you everything.
Déise today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.
With thanks to mulliganspharmacy.com. Life's a beach with Mulligan's Pharmacies. Open late on the Dunmore Road and in Tremore.
Now, welcome back to the programme. I am joined on the line by Alma. Good morning, Alma.
Good morning, Damien. How are you?
Good, thanks. Good. Alma Shanahan Power. Alma, there's a big event coming up in Dungarvan. Tell me about it, please.
Yes, we actually were so mad and we grew butterflies.
You grew butterflies. Tell us about that.
We certainly did. Well, Louise, a friend of mine, she sent away for them. She minded them with tubers, and then we became caterpillars. And last week and the week before, they all emerged. So we're here today to release them for people that have gone before us. It's also a sign of infant loss, and it's also fibromyalgia. I suffer from fibromyalgia, and a lot of the fibromyalgia group are here today to release balloons. But it's just a celebration of life, really.
Where is it taking place, Alma?
It's taking place in the Rebike Cafe. They were kind enough to host us. So they're here at the minute putting up gazebos. We've had a shower and we're hoping that'll be the last one.
Well, I'm just looking at the weather forecast, and the rainfall radar says that, the rain should clear in around 16 minutes. So you can take it from me, 16 minutes. And you're going at the Rebike Cafe in Abbeyside from 11:30 till 2:30 this afternoon. Is that it?
And we have Kieran Eaton and David Power playing music for us. And Kieran will do a few instrumentals as the butterflies are being released. And we have 30 balloons with Love Forever on them. And they will raise up. We can't release them.
It's a fabulous thing. Well done.
Then you go up, we may do one again if we're brave enough, and he might join us.
I know it's a really lovely idea. Send us a few pictures. So, as you say, the butterflies representing infant loss, dementia, fibromyalgia, and the loss of a loved one. It's a fabulous, thoughtful idea.
And we have Déise rocks here as well. They're designing rocks that are hidden on the beach or in the garden, but they've kindly given one to every member that releases today to bring home to their garden or put on a grave.
Lovely. Well, listen, the very best of luck to you today, Alma. Alma Shanahan Power in Dungarvan, and you can hear it. It's the Rebike Cafe in Abbeyside, starting now until 2:30. Get down there and support her, and you can give maybe a fiver to support that beautiful cause, Butterfly Release Day. Thank you, Alma, for joining us this morning. Just before we come to Gavin, Damien, thanks for covering such an important issue regarding cancer. Sadly, for my friend, it's a little too late. Cancer has spread and nothing can be done. I hope men everywhere take your advice. Damien, you're a saint. I remember years ago, before flexible scopes came in, only rigid colonoscopies, the professor of surgery was called in to see me and said, do you mind if I bring the team in? I said, you can bring the British Army in, just get it done. And this person has survived because of going for the tests and making sure everything was done. People saying, well done to Dick Turbert. Dick, you're an inspiration to us all at St. Paul's Scout Group. Thanks, Dick, for all the help he gave us in Lourdes over the last week, from Tom in Dungarvan. Gavin Whelan, good morning.
Morning, Damien. How are things?
Good, thank you. Good. Gavin, who is Aileen Wall? How good a sports person is Aileen Wall?
Well, she's a top-notch attacker for Waterford over many years now, and produced it with Ballymacarbery, of course, who I think it was 37 in a row they did last year in the club. So just really good talent. Gets the ball in her hand, runs at defences, and going to be a key player, of course, in Sunday's home Munster final for Waterford. So get along to Fairfield Sunday evening 6:30.
Let's have a listen to Aileen.
Oh, that's it, exactly. And, it does make a big difference not having to get on a bus and haul around all your stuff, So it does make a big difference. And, support-wise as well, it'll make a massive difference. Now, we have our few supporters who will come to, no matter where we go, they'll come, but it'll be great. It'll definitely get an extra few people along to the game for us. So that would be an extra support for us. It'd be great.
This is massive, a Munster final.
Absolutely, yeah, it certainly is indeed. We don't have too many teams left in the Championship now, unfortunately, Damien. So, first of all, I'd be encouraging everyone to get along Sunday evening 6:30. It's a good time for Fairfield. Was in there during the week at the primary schools finals, the Common and Munster finals, and the pitch was closed for a couple of weeks, done a bit of sanding on it, which I think the rest done a good. It was absolutely in brilliant nick as well. So, looking forward to Sunday evening. Cork obviously beat Waterford by 24 points the last time they met in CIT. So, that sometimes it's hard to beat the same team twice in the 1 year, although Waterford did do it with Kerry. They bet them in the league final and then bet them in Munster. But, there's good talent in that Waterford team, a nice blend of youth and experience. Kieran Kernan, his first year of charge, has brought in fresh ideas, new ideas, and when you have players like Aileen Wall and Michelle Ryan, Maria Delahunty in your attacking unit, they're formidable players who are well capable of getting scores. And I'd certainly Cork are going to win as favourites. Let's call a spade, but I'm sure Waterford, with the home support behind them, will be going to give it one hell of a battle on Sunday evening 6:30.
Tell us, who is Lorraine Bray?
So Lorraine Bray then Waterford Camogie they're starting their All-Ireland Championship campaign in a trip to Tipperary tomorrow. Lorraine has been around the block now, still relatively young, but has been around the block the last number of years, and really formidable midfielder, great skillful player, great on the ball, and not afraid to go forward and get scores as well, Damien.
Here's a little clip of Lorraine.
Yeah, every year the team, there's new players coming in and it's building every year, and it's brilliant to see in the Camogie. Very strong players have come in again this year, and the competition on the panel this year is unbelievable, which is great to see. And even the work and training that we're doing and everything, it's just so competitive, and that's what you want when you're playing on a county panel. So it's brilliant to see young players coming in as well. So
tell us about this match.
Yeah, absolutely, and a good point there. Lorraine made it, and I think both Camogie and Ladies Cup will have the strength and depth in the young players players, they bring that element of freshness into a panel as well. So this is a huge occasion. The All-Ireland Championship in the camogie is separate to Munster. They've been beaten by Tip already. So this is, I suppose, the pinnacle of the championship, and what Donal O'Rourke, I'm sure, and his management team would have been aiming for. Tip obviously overturned Waterford in the All-Ireland quarter-finals last summer. They'll be hoping to learn from that. The Tipperary team are top quality as well, but Waterford will be reasonably happy with their preparations. Bet Carton, of course, we have her as phenomenal talent up front, and can anybody stop her is the question. Lorraine there in the centre of the field. You've Shona Kern and Caoimhe McGrath, who's one of the dual players. She's back on the fold this year in the camogie as well, so they've added to the panel as well, and there's plenty of young talent out there as well. So obviously when you go away from home in the All-Ireland Camogie Championship, it's never easy, but they'd be used to be playing in the rag up there in Tip, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of support up there for them. So we wish them the best of luck. 5 o'clock tomorrow evening. Tomas will be at both games for us, the Evergreen Tomas, of course, to keep us updated. And it's fantastic because people say he does it for GA, but what he does for ladies football and indeed camogie as well, absolutely second to none. I don't think there's a better buckle out there, so we'll be looking forward to linking in with him from both the rag and indeed for Harfield on Saturday and Sunday.
Get out and support the women over the weekend, and if you're around Kilgobnet tonight, go out to Kilgobnet and support the Kilgobnet boys. They have their special memorial tournament tonight.
Yeah, they have, of course. Yeah, I believe you're making the trip up here yourselves. I know you won't make it tonight. I'm sure the Kilgobnet full backline will be glad to hear that, I'm sure. Anyway, so 7:30, the annual James Welsh tournament. And can I also just give a mention, Damien, the John A. Murphy senior hurling tournament is in Dungarvan tonight for two great causes there as well. Dungarvan and Abbeyside senior hurling league, just €5 admission there as well. That's underway at 8 o'clock tonight, and we'll have much more build up on Lorna Porca tonight. Timmy O'Keefe will be in, former county board secretary, who's called for an independent review of Waterford hurling. That's going to be a great piece. And tomorrow I'll have JJ Hutchinson on the programme, who of course announced his retirement from intercounty football during the week. So WLR for all the sport and action over the weekend.
And Kilgobnet, watch out for Richard Finnegan.
Déise Today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.
With thanks to Click and Collect at mulliganspharmacy.com. Order online, collect in store.
Déise Today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.
With thanks to Mulligan's. Did you know you can collect your Blue Club points online? See mulliganspharmacy.com.
You got that power over me.
Now, welcome back to the programme. Some of your texts and comments coming in. Damien, if one has health cover you can be seen within days, public patients can be left on the sideline. Government needs to get priorities straight. That's one of the issues that people have been talking about. We are joined now in studio by Megan Nolan. Good morning, Megan.
Morning.
Thanks very much for coming in this morning.
Lovely to be here. Thanks for having me.
I was just saying, I'd say you never thought you'd be on Déise Today, did you?
No, never in my wildest dreams.
When you were a young one growing up now in Waterford, was Déise Today, was Willie McCarthy?
Yeah.
Would the lads, Daddy had listened to it?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. It was always on the car on the way to school, yeah.
Was it?
Yeah.
What do you remember about it?
I just remember Billy being hilarious, really. Yeah, I really loved his voice and the way he spoke. I loved him.
Yeah. You are a writer. You are currently based in London.
Yeah.
And you're going to be moving to Margate, you're telling me?
That's right, yeah. I'm heading off for a while at least. I'm going to try out living by the sea and see how that suits me.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
And you could be walking along with one of these Zimmer frames in years to come, one of these old people as you go along, and taking in the Margate air. And tell us, how old are you?
I'm 28, nearly just turning 29 in 2 weeks' time now.
When did you leave Waterford?
I left just after school, so when I was 18 I moved to Dublin, and I stayed there until I was 24 then, and then I moved to London.
Why did you leave Waterford?
I just left for college, like everyone else really, but I dropped out of college, so I ended up just working in Dublin for most of the time that I was there.
You have become quite famous.
Oh God, I wouldn't say that.
I know you're a modest person, but you've become quite famous. You've written for, tell me about the publications you've written for.
So the ones I do most regularly, I have a column in the New Statesman. That's my kind of fortnightly one. Apart from that, I write for Vice and the New York Times and the Guardian. I do some interviews for the Observer magazine and a few other bits, but they're the kind of most regular ones.
How did you get into writing for the New York Times?
So when I moved to London, I was just doing office jobs, just temping and doing odd bits and pieces and some waitressing and things like that. And in my spare time, I'd always been writing, but in my spare time I started trying to pitch some articles to the Guardian. Was the first kind of big one that I got, and I just kind of knew that they had a pretty open door policy for comment pieces, so I pitched them a thing and they took it, luckily, and then sort of just from there. But I was doing it in my spare time for a good solid year before I made enough money to stop doing my other work.
A lot of the things that you've written about are deeply personal.
Mm-hmm.
You write about being raped as a student. You write about backing sexual consent lessons. You write about an abortion you had. Is the essence of your writing to encapsulate those personal experiences and try to give a worldview about them? Or how do you combine those experiences with what's out there?
Yeah, I suppose when I started writing, before I was doing it professionally, I was mainly writing personal essays that were kind of entirely personal and not really concerned with politics or the outside world. It was just me trying to get some thoughts about my own experiences down. And then as I got a bit older, I started to, as you're saying, include a sort of perspective about what's going on in the world with my own experience of it. So that consent lessons one would be an example of that, I guess, because I had my own experience to kind of inform my political view on it.
Does every writer have to start with their own personal experiences?
I don't think so, no. I think that I think of myself as a sort of observational writer rather than a sort of creation. More, some people have huge imaginations and they can create things. I kind of see myself more as observing things and then trying to make something out of those observations.
So is it possible for a non-gay person to write a gay novel? Is it possible for a non-nationalist to write about the suffering of nationalists in Northern Ireland? Or
I think so, yeah. I think obviously it's quite a hot topic at the moment with people talking about, like the John Boyne controversy of the transgender novel he wrote. I don't think that anyone... Well, I wouldn't agree that you can't write your own experience. I think it's absolutely fine to write characters that aren't informed by yourself. But I do understand entirely why someone would be upset by feeling misrepresented by that. I think that it's, as with everything, if you do a good, informed, sensitive job of it, it will be a great novel. And if you don't, then it won't be a great novel.
Has your view of life been formed by your personal experiences?
Yes, definitely, yeah.
How much so?
So how I perceive the world, how much has that been? I suppose someone wrote me a nice email recently about a piece that I wrote that said every bit of suffering that you experience makes you valuable to another person. I think that's really true. I think that things that I've gone through have made me feel empathy to not just other people who've suffered the same things, but it makes you more open to other people's suffering in general. I suppose that's one of the positive things I've tried to take away from bad experiences I've had.
Stay with us because I want to ask if you like James Joyce.
Okay.
Déise Today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.
With thanks to Mulligan's. Did you know you can collect your Blue Club points online? See mulliganspharmacy.com.
You got that power over me.
Déise Today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.
With thanks to mulliganspharmacy.com. Life's a beach with Mulligan's Pharmacies. Open late on the Dunmore Road and Intramore.
Now, welcome back to the programme. You're listening to Megan Nolan. She's a Waterford-born writer, currently based in Britain. She writes for The New Statesman, The Guardian, The New York Times, The Sunday Times. And she's recently wrote a lovely piece, a homecoming piece, about how she feels about returning to Waterford on visits. And her dad is well-known playwright Jim Nolan. So the writing comes from your mother. Is that right, Megan?
Yeah, entirely, yeah.
Totally, yeah, absolutely. No. Jim was like no influence whatsoever in your life.
No, he wouldn't even let me read a book.
Nah, he's right. He spends too much time, I'd say, trying to clear the glue from the pig's trotters from his eyes, does he?
Yeah, that's mainly what he spends his evenings doing, yeah.
Every time he walks past, where is it? Which is one of the butchers?
Now. It's the one near Jeff's.
One of the butchers near, yeah. Every time he walks past it, right, he says to you, "Did I ever tell you, Megan, about the time?" So you've listened to this story 50 times.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be annoyed with me now for making him sound like an old man. But
well, sure, he's getting on. He looks well, though. He's doing his walks out on the beach and out in Von Man or wherever it is he goes, the Copper Coast. So
he does the Greenway, yeah.
He reminds you of a time that they were coming home late one night, himself and his friend, and they went in, they got some pig's trotters, is that it? And they brought them home to suck on them at night.
That's right, yeah. And then the next morning he woke up and thought he had gone blind because he turned out he couldn't open his eyes because the grease from the pig trotters had crusted over after he'd touched them and he was going to sleep. So he thought he had gone blind, but it was just the pig trotter grease.
So he had rubbed his eyes obviously in the night and half cut and rubbed the eyes and the grease from and he woke up, I'm blind, oh Jesus.
Yeah, he'll be delighted now that I've gone into detail on that.
It's a great little story. James Joyce, Portrait of an Artist. At the end of Portrait of an Artist, he writes about having to leave the home, having to go away and fly away to become not only a fuller, rounded person, but a better writer.
Yeah.
Is that you?
I feel a bit careful about saying that everyone has to do that, because I think it's a bit patronising to anyone who chooses to stay in their hometown to say, oh, you definitely have to go away. I've personally wanted to quite badly to leave and to go and do different things and visit different places. So for me it was important, but I wouldn't say it's a necessity for everyone.
Go back slightly from the microphone a little bit, it's okay. It's not a necessity for everyone. Michael Longley and different poets and other people would spend their entire life tilling a bit of land and finding the glory in the banal, and Patrick Kavanagh having left Monaghan and finding the beauty in a canal in stilly water. Combining those experiences that you have at home with those that you're learning abroad now, and that you're back here now for a week.
For a week, yeah.
You write about, can you see yourself coming back to Waterford, and that relationship that a person has when they leave their homestead. It's a very complex relationship.
Yeah, I feel like whenever I come back, I really feel strongly that I could be here. I could stay. I really love Waterford, and every time I come home, I feel sad that I don't live here. Really. But
do you really believe that at this stage in your life? Because if you believe that, you would come home.
No, absolutely. That's why I don't come home. That's why I don't live here. Because I know whenever I leave again, when I go back to London or wherever I'm living at the time, I feel perfectly fine and satisfied to not be here, and that I'm doing the right thing with my life. But when I come back, it is just for that week or whatever. I feel very sad, and not sad, but I feel
that word sadness is important, because children of all ages experience that, and parents of all ages experience that, because when a child leaves the house, firstly, they might go and live in the city, but when they go abroad, that effect that it has on those lives.
Yeah. My mum and myself were just talking about this last night, because I've never been that far away. I've usually been just in the UK or not, in Europe. But we were chatting about when my two brothers went to Australia for, a year or two at a time each. And she was saying she was terrified that they'd fall in love when they were there, because it's just so far, So I think that she's relieved that we all kind of came back eventually. But I think, it's a hard dynamic to have to watch someone you love go away and not know if they'll come back at the end.
Because a child can feel guilty, a young person can feel guilty by falling in love with somebody in Australia or Canada, and the mammy and daddy feel sad.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I would find it very hard to live far away from my parents. I wouldn't, for instance, I kind of in the back of my head would love to live in New York someday, for instance, but I kind of wouldn't, I don't feel that I'd be able to do it now for some reason, to be that far away from my parents.
And yet if you lived at home, you might be killing each other.
I'm sure we would, yeah. Yeah, I have a great relationship with my parents now that I don't live with them.
You might be eating pig's trotters once a week. Do you ever have the pig's trotters?
No, never, no.
Oh, no, I've never had them either, no. We might do a live reading here someday. Do you know what you do? Next time you're doing a reading of one of your pieces, suck on a pig's trotter beforehand and see how it goes. You're heading to Greece for a month.
That's right, yeah.
Where are you going?
I'm going to Athens, and I'll go to Hydra, the island, for about a week of that as well.
Why?
I have a sort of relationship with the place now, because about 3 years ago I started writing my book, and I got a little grant from the Ted and Mary Foundation here, and it was enough. In London, it would have only lasted me a short amount of time, and so I decided to go somewhere cheap and that I could get cheap rent for a few months and make it last as well as I could. And I happened to know a friend of a friend in Greece who had an apartment there, so I was there for about four months in 2016, and I've kind of gone back every year since then. I really love it there, and I like to spend some time on my own away from London.
Why do you write?
I think that when I was younger, because I've always written something, it's not always been the kinds of things that I write now. I used to write poetry, that was my main thing when I was younger. And I think why I ever started writing anything was that I kind of, well, it's a way to make sense of what's happening to you in your life, you know, some way to put shape or a narrative on the experiences you're having. But also I think I suffered a lot with very low self-esteem when I was little and even as an adult, but it was sort of a way to feel useful, or that you were making something that made you a valuable, you know, that was a kind of way to tell yourself you've made something today, even if it wasn't great, at least you've produced something.
Why do we have to try and make sense of the world?
Because it's very overwhelming. Even if you have a very simple and boring life, even the most basic things, to me anyway, are very overwhelming a lot of the time. You know, just basic emotions and relationships you have with your family and your partner or your work, anything like that. To me, I find it hard to, even if I'm in a calm period of my life, I feel very overwhelmed by feelings a lot of the time. Even though that sounds very teenage to say that, but it does, you know, it makes me feel better to try and outline some of these things as best I can in writing.
What do you think of death?
I don't feel terribly afraid of death, of my own death. I'm really afraid of people I love dying, and I have been lucky enough that not many people I know. I had one close friend who died when I was about 22. Apart from him, I don't really know many people who've died, and I'm really afraid of my parents dying, you know. And that's part of why I think my dynamic with Waterford is quite painful, is that I'm very aware of the passing of time, and you know, if I'm away for a long time, I don't come and visit, then I'm aware that that's the bones of a year gone then, you know,
because time is precious.
Yeah, and I am very aware of how my dad said to me once when he was dropping me to the airport or something to go back to London, he said, he wasn't even upset saying this, but he said, you know, it's actually very short, the amount of time we'll spend together cumulatively, you know. When you think about you only coming home at Christmas for a few weeks, the amount of time that we'll have together for the rest of my life is not loads. It's, you know, hopefully there's many more years of it, but even then, because if you're only home for 3 weeks of the year, it's not a lot of actual time together, you know.
I wish we had more time to talk.
Yeah.
Will you come back and talk to us again, please?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Do give us a bit more time the next time. Say hello to Mum and Dad for us.
I will.
And mind those pig trotters.
I will, yeah.
Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks for your text. Damien, forget the word trotters. Pig's toes, please. Wrapped in grease-proof paper and a newspaper. There you go now, Megan.
Lesson learned, yeah.
Lesson learned. Thank you, Jennifer, for everything this week. Thanks to David for everything on social media and putting stuff together. Jeff is up next. Thank you everybody for your texts, your comments, your interaction in the show. We will talk to you on Monday morning. Have a great weekend.